Let me first shortly introduce you to the webinar program of today. So some of you might know what an Erasmus Mundus program is, others might not. So we will first shortly outline this concept for you. Secondly, IMRD is a program shaped by multiple university partners, so we introduce them to you briefly. Then we come to the heart of our webinar. What is IMRD about? How is the program structured, and what are your mobility options as a student? Then we are very glad to introduce you to Andrea Del Cura, an IMRD graduate who will be happy to share her experiences in the program with you. Next item, also very important, how can you apply for IMRD? And what should you take into account before and during the application process? We will then offer some more insight into where IMRD alumni tend to get employed. And afterwards, another graduate will give a testimonial about his own career so far. We end the webinar with a Q&A session. In case some of your questions were not answered properly during the presentation, we invite you to write them down in the Q&A section, and we will get back to them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's start. I'm happy to give the floor to Professor Stijn Speelman, who is the academic coordinator of the program, and he will explain more about Erasmus Mundus.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. So what is an Erasmus Mundus Master Program? Erasmus Mundus Master Programs are programs that are organized by consortia of different European partner universities. And if you graduate in such a master program, you get a joint diploma which is signed by the rectors of all consortium partners. So you basically get your diploma by studying at different universities. In our case, one of the semesters is followed at the coordinating university, and at least one of the semesters is then followed at the partner institutions. So mobility is inherent to the program. Mobility is inherent to Erasmus Mundus. In the case of IMRD, we don't have 3 partners organizing the program, but we have 6 core European partner universities. You have University of Cordoba from Spain, l'Institut Agro-Rennes Angers in France, Ghent University in Belgium, who is coordinating, University of Pisa from Italy, the Slovak University of Agriculture in Nitra, and Humboldt University of Berlin. And thank you, Lee. I would like to share you some images of these different partners. So these are some images from Cordoba, for instance. Next slide gives you some views on AgroCampus Rennes, which is close to, or relatively close to Paris. Then we have Ghent University, where we mainly have some images from the campus. Then the next partner is Pisa University. Pisa, of course, famous for the Tower of Pisa, but also hosting a very good university. Slovak University in Nitra, situated in Slovakia. And finally, Humboldt University of Berlin. So you can see from the pictures that all of this seem to be very nice places to study, but not only that, they're also very good universities, as you can see on the next slide with the ranking, with the ranking of the universities. So the core partners are all in the top 10 or top 200 of the rankings, Shanghai ranking for agricultural sciences, or the Queen's World Rankings for agriculture and forestry. So we have a very strong consortium linked to these sciences. We don't only have these European partners, we also have a number of international partners, which are associated to our consortium, involving partnerships with University of Arkansas from the USA, Seoul National University from South Korea and Korea University from South Korea, Ganteu University from Vietnam, University of Pretoria from South Africa, Escola Superior Politécnica del Litoral from Ecuador, and the University of Agricultural Sciences from Bangalore, India. So it's a truly international network. Now, what is the IMRD program about? What is the content and the scope, and why should you study it? So why should you study IMRD? Well, rural areas are important. Not only do rural areas consist a large part of the world's surface, but also a very significant share of the world population is living in rural areas, about 45%. And these rural areas, they provide food, fresh water, energy, timber, metals, minerals, and many other resources to not only for themselves, but also to the cities. Furthermore, these areas host ecosystems, biodiversity, and indigenous cultures. So these are very important areas. But these areas have a lot of societal challenges. Livelihoods in the rural areas are often less good as in the cities because of poor infrastructure, because of poor services, lower incomes. So developing these areas is important. But it's also difficult because there's external challenges. Challenges like climate change, land degradation, deforestation, biodiversity loss, and fragmentation of natural habitats, poverty, and geographical isolation. So with all this in mind, attention and continued investment in rural areas is very important. And this is widely accepted, and that's why rural development keeps on being very high on the political agenda around the world. And of course, if this is very important, then you also need rural development professionals, people who can make these changes, who can address these societal challenges. And that is what we want to do with our program. So in the IMRD program, we want to equip our students to address these societal challenges. We want to equip them to translate the visions for rural development into practice. And which approach do we take for that? Well, we want to provide a comprehensive education, an education that focuses both on social and natural sciences, both on qualitative and quantitative methods, but that also gives you skills. And linked to these skills, we also want to include a lot of practical engagement through field studies, case studies, practical work on the ground with partners. And finally, not to forget, a lot of intercultural exchange. You have a lot of intercultural exchange, not only by the composition of the class group, but also through your mobility, studying at different locations, having teachers from different cultures coming over. And this is also a very big added value for the program. Now, we see our program as a T-shaped profile. And what does this T-shaped profile mean? Well, at the basis, everybody studying our program should get awareness on socioeconomic concepts, theories, and multidisciplinary approaches related to rural development. But then you go into depth. You get deep knowledge into one of three fields: analysis of food systems, social transitions, or governance and sustainability of rural areas. But it's not only about studying and going to depth. We also want to provide you with a lot of skills. And these skills form the top part of our T, where you get skills related to the ability to analyze and evaluate and solve problems, but also the skills and tools or use instruments for development, critical reflection skills, Also to learn how to go into dialogue with different actors, to learn to work in team, and to learn to communicate in written and verbal ways. So this is the way we want to educate our alumni. So how do we translate this in our program? So our program is structured along 3 paths. There's a part focusing on agri-food systems, there's a part focusing on social transitions, and there's a part focusing on governance and sustainability. Whichever path you take, you always start with an entrance module in Ghent University. But after that Ghent University entrance module, the 3 paths separate. The agri-food systems part then has a second advanced module in Ghent University and a third advanced module in Pisa University. The social transitions part moves to Slovak University of Agriculture in Nitra and l'Institut Agro in Rennes. And the governance and sustainability part goes to Cordoba University and Humboldt University of Berlin. You see that in the middle, there's also a bar that is the same for all tracks. That is a case study. So whatever path you're in, whatever mobility path you're in, you can go to a case study either in Pisa, Slovakia, or a case study in the south. Then the final part of the program is that you have to do a master dissertation. And this master dissertation is linked to your path. So students who are in the agri-food systems path, they will have a master dissertation at Ghent or Pisa, while students at in the social transition path will have a master dissertation in Slovakia or in France at l'Institut Agro. Next slide. So this is was the basic mobility path, but next to this basic mobility path, we also have windows for international exchange. So we also had these international partners. Well, specifically for students who have a VLIR scholarship, there's advanced modules at our Global South partners. So in Canton, Espol, and Pretoria. Furthermore, even if you're in the Erasmus Mundus tracks, you can have a Global South case study. And then finally, IMRD also hosts a number of double degree programs. These are programs where, as a student, you start in the IMRD program in Europe in one of the tracks. And in your second year, you can go to an exchange at one of the international partners listed here. And in that way, you don't only get the joint IMRD program, but you also get the program or the degree of the partner university. And these programs are the Atlantis program, where you can do your second year at University of Arkansas and obtain also a diploma from Arkansas. The ECAFRI program, where you can study in South Korea at Korea University and Seoul National University, and the ERUDEF program, where you can do your second year at ESPOL, Escola Superior Politécnica del Litoral. Thank you. Finally, we also have non-academic partners in our consortium, and the main reason to have those is to connect you to the work field. Through these non-academic partners, you can do internships or you can do your master dissertation research in collaboration with these non-academic partners. And the non-academic partners, amongst others, include the CGR centers such as IRI and ICRAF CIFOR, but also FIO and also NGOs like Ricolto.
Okay, thank you, Professor Speelman. I now like to invite Andrea Del Cura to share her experiences in IMRD with the audience. Andrea graduated very recently from the program in 2024, to be more precise. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea. I'm from Spain. And as Zane said, I just graduated from IMRD. I was part of the 2022-2024 cohort, and I was also the student representative. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience, but then feel free to ask any questions. I will also leave my email address in case you want to contact me afterwards, because I need to leave after my presentation. So, well, first of all, I would like to start by saying that it was an amazing experience. I wasn't sure in the beginning whether this was the program for me, but after the 2 years, I can say that it was definitely very enriching and very interesting in many aspects. So what I did was the sustainability track, which is now called governance and sustainability. I started in Ghent, as you will all do, because it's the same for everyone. So the first semester, as Stein said, is in Ghent. I would say that Ghent University, well, this first semester was vital for the cohesion of the group. So this is where we all got to meet each other and to get to know each other. We also, I don't know how it will work these years, but we lived, almost all of us lived together in the student dorms. So that was a very important part of it, because we came together as a group and we learned a lot about each other, not only inside the classroom, but also outside. I would say in terms of, or should I mix both the academic and the personal part, or should I separate them?
As you wish.
Okay. Well, then, okay, I'll mix them. So I'll go in chronological order. So I would say Ghent University is more focused on methodology. That's how I would summarize it. So you can expect qualitative and quantitative analysis. And so like, it's basically giving you the basis for further research, which you will need in the rest of the semesters, not only in the first one, but also the rest of them, and especially for the master thesis. So I would say Ghent would be the most technical side of the whole program that I did. Maybe it's different for the other tracks, but I'm only speaking for my track. So after Ghent, I moved to Cordoba. Cordoba was an amazing experience as well. It's an amazing city in the south of Spain. And well, now the group got smaller, obviously, because in Ghent we were all together, but then we started getting divided according to our tracks. So it was different. It was a different experience. We got to be in smaller groups and to basically be with each other all the time, because you cannot share your time with almost 50 people, but you can with 12. So it was a different experience. And in terms of the academic learnings, I would say that Cordoba is much more practical. It's more, it deals with more practical issues and with more field related affairs. So for instance, things related to gender, to social justice, to how to deal with, for instance, participatory research. So it's more like hands-on experience. And finally, I went to Humboldt University in Berlin, and I stayed there for the whole year, which was more, well, now the second year, I would say it's more about being independent, because you start to think of your thesis, which, by the way, you should do from the very beginning, not leave it to the end. But also you get, I mean, in my case, Berlin is a huge city, so it's a different experience. So each place has its own specificities and its own, I don't want to say good and bad, because I mean, that's completely subjective, but definitely they're very different in terms of the cities, in terms of the educational systems, the way they give you the grades, for instance, the way they mark your papers and stuff. So what you should always like keep in mind, if I had to choose one word for this program, is adaptation. You need to be comfortable with adapting to different formats, different ways of teaching, different accents, different ways of participating. So not only in terms of the professors and the teachers and stuff, but also in terms of the group. So it's very different how we learn to be in a classroom according to our origins, right? And many other factors that influence. let's not forget the case study, which was, I would say, my favorite part of the whole program. So mine was linked to Pisa University. I went to a very small town in Garfagnana in Toscana in Italy. And it was an amazing experience. That was where the theory came into something tangible. So we could see what we were talking about for the past year, and for the whole program, if you put it into perspective. And that was a very amazing experience. I would say for those of you who are self-funding, keep in mind that you will probably need to save money for this. You will not be able to work during the case study, so just keep it in mind from the beginning of the program, while you are able to work in the other cities, obviously. Okay, what else? Yeah, the most stressful part would be moving from one place to the other. I mean, I think you can guess this part, because it's not easy to move, and it's not easy to move 3 times in 2 years or 4 times, depending on your path. I would say the housing situation would be the hardest part. So as long as you know this in advance, then you can try to figure it out, and you can try to find solutions in advance. But one of the things that I feel was common among us was the feeling that we had to be thinking ahead, and sometimes forgot to enjoy and to exploit the experience at the moment. So I would recommend, even it's it all goes very fast, because I mean, it's the way the program is structured. I would recommend you to stop and enjoy while it's taking place, because I mean, I can't almost believe that my program is over, and I started 2 years ago. So it went fast. It went by super fast. I did my master thesis on rural entrepreneurship beyond food production from a gender perspective, and I really enjoyed it. As I was saying, I would recommend you to start thinking of what you would like to further research on, something that would be useful for your further career. And maybe I'm talking like, maybe this sounds too big, but it's not. Just think of something that really interests you and try to, I mean, what I did, and it worked well for me, was that every paper that I had to write, or at least all of the papers that I could write, or even the group works that I could write that had something to do with what I was interested of, I did it on that topic. I tried to link my interest to the different subjects and the different papers, so that I could already start trying to define my structure, or at least the topics that I was interested on. Okay, and now what's next, right? So I finished in June this year, sorry. And then I moved back to Madrid. So I'm from Spain, and for personal reasons, I had to come back to Madrid. And now I'm living in Madrid, which is a very big city, not very rural, I would say. So what I'm now looking a job in is consultancy. But I know for a fact that friends of mine who moved back to Spain and moved to rural areas are finding many different kinds of jobs related to the field. So in my experience, what I could say from what I just saw is that there are, because of this program is so multidisciplinary and has so many different things inside, this may seem superficial for some people who are looking for one specific topic, or like to dive into one specific thing. But for people who like to know a little bit of everything and then further research on their own, I think this is a good program, a good choice. So because it's very diverse, you could find many different kinds of jobs related to this. For instance, I took the sustainability track, so there is many things you can do with basic knowledge of sustainability or advanced knowledge of sustainability issues. So yeah, now I'm interviewing, and I'm in several processes to work in consultancy. So that's what I can tell you. I don't know. I think I answered all of the main questions, but let me know if I can be more specific, or if you have any other questions.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for this inspiring testimonial, this clear and honest testimonial as well, I would say. I think that for future students, such an inside perspective is of very great value. So for now, thank you for joining, and I wish you all the best in your future career.
Thank you very much. You can share my email address and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Let's move on now to the application process explained by Lien Bertram, who is the technical coordinator of the IMRD program. Lien, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Lien. Hi, everybody. First of all,
Lien, I think we cannot hear you. I think you are muted. Can you just...
I pushed on go. Sorry. I'll repeat
okay.
it. So yeah, sorry. So thank you for your interest in this program and for taking the time to follow this webinar. I'm going to give you some information concerning the application procedure and the documents that you need. So before you start, please check two requirements. You have to check the academic requirements and you also have to check the language requirements. Concerning the academic requirements, students for this program, they must have a bachelor's degree of minimum 3 years with good overall scores, at least a second class or an equivalent from a university level or recognized equivalent. Candidates are expected to have a basic training and you have to demonstrate that in your transcript of records in the following fields. So the first one is mathematics and or statistics. The second field you have to provide is life sciences. So that's agronomy or biology or environmental sciences. And the second field you have to provide some information is social sciences and or rural development. Candidates who cannot present a combined training of these fields will be evaluated on their aptitude, so based on experience and knowledge of these fields, and you can demonstrate this in your CV. So if you don't have this academic training, please provide the necessary documents so we can evaluate your whole application. In case of doubt or if you have questions, please send an email to our general application email address and we will always give you an answer as soon as possible. Important for applicants who are now finishing their last bachelor year, you can also apply in your last bachelor year, provided that when you start with the program, you have finished your bachelor program. You can start the application, as I mentioned, and it's important then that via your home university, you can provide an enrollment certificate stating that you're now in your final bachelor year. Next slide, please, Lien. So then the second part of the requirements, I will not mention them all, but you also have to provide a valid language certificate. So those that are mentioned in this limited list, those are the only language certificates that we provide. In general, language of instruction is not approved, but in some cases, if you're a resident from United States of America, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Ireland, or Canada, then you don't have to prove it because you're a resident of one of those countries. Next slide, please, Lien. Okay. Next to the requirements, you also can consider some funding. On average, for all the countries of the consortium, it's an average of 1,000 euros per month. That also includes your cost for housing, food, clothing, health, leisure, and local mobility. For European Economic Area countries, those residents have to pay a tuition fee of 4,500 euros. The other ones that are not from one of those countries, the tuition fee is 9,000 euros. And you also have to calculate that there are international travel costs because this is a program with international mobility. Next slide, please, Lien. So If you're looking for funding, it's not up to us to support you in that, so that it's something that you have to look into yourself. We have a list of some countries, and then with the concerning fundings that former students of us already have used. But in general, we can help you or guide you, but it's a search that you have to do yourself. Next slide, please, Lynn. We have, as Professor Speelman already mentioned, we have yearly, we have 10 scholarships in this program that's provided by VLIR, that's our Belgian Development Corporation. One of the most important criteria are it's only open for students from a particular list of 30 countries. Via the website that's mentioned here on the slide, you can check if you're a resident of one of those countries. If you're not, if your country is not on that list, you can't apply for this scholarship. Just in short, those students, they receive 1,400 euros monthly allowance. That's for all the cost that you need, also for the accommodation. And these students, they pay a reduced tuition fee. I don't know the amount by heart, but it can vary every academic year, and it's about 1,000 or 1,100 euros. Next one, please, Lynn. Okay, so which documents do you have to upload? Attend university, it's the coordinating university. We have a particular application tool that you first have to log in, and then you can spread your application process during a couple of days. So you don't have to admit it immediately, but there's some documents you have to upload. So the most important one is your a bachelor or your master degree, or a statement that you're in your last bachelor year, as I mentioned. So you upload your transcript of records, because as I mentioned, you have to prove that the 3 concerned study fields are visible on your transcript. Also upload an English language certificate. You have to upload a motivation letter. And in case you're admitted, then you have to provide some legalized documents of these credentials. What's not mentioned on this, you also have to upload a short description of a possible thesis topic, so that we can estimate what your interest is. And also you have to indicate your choice of track that you want to apply for. When do you apply? So here it's mentioned what the different deadlines are for our 3 groups of students. So if you apply for the VLIR scholarship, we need a complete application, and the deadline is 28th of February. So I really want to stress that don't start your application the last day, because if some documents are missing, we will not evaluate your application. So one of my tips is please start in time, because every year we have students who are stressing, I started the last day, I don't have all my documents. So we're quite strict. We need a full application file. And just to mention that the academic year at Ghent University starts September 25. Okay, Lane, next one. Okay, some tips. First, I will show the tip that's underneath. So you have to provide good study results and an appropriate study background. Like I mentioned, if something's lacking in your transcript of records and you can include some relevant work experience or additional training, we read them all. So we have a full picture picture of your application, and then we can estimate if you're academic eligible or not. The most important tip I can give you is you also have to provide a motivation letter. And it's important that you show us that you have insights in the content, the approach, and the focus of the program. Please mention the international mobility, because we have to read many motivation letters and they don't mention the partners. Like they only talk about Ghent University, but it's also important for us to know that you're aware that this program exists of international mobility. So a very good personal motivation letter is very interesting for us to estimate if you're a valuable candidate or not. So once again, I really stress out that just a standard motivation letter is not a trigger to admit you to the program. So please take time to provide a very good motivation letter.
Thank you, Lien, for clearing that out for us. Let me then say a few words about the start of the IMRD journey. As pointed out earlier, it starts in Belgium at the Faculty of Bioscience Engineering of Ghent University. There, the team of the International Training Center that you see on this picture will be ready for the students to make the start of their studies go as smoothly as possible. How do we do that at the International Training Center? By offering the so-called takeoff program. Here you can see a picture of the last edition taken in September 2024. And just for the record, these are not just IMRD students. The takeoff program is offered to all international students who start an English taught master program at our faculty. So this takeoff program is a preparatory program, and it's meant to facilitate a smooth start of the academic year. It consists of 3 parts. The first part starts way before we're even thinking about arriving in September. It starts in May or June from so some months earlier. It's an online preparatory information campaign for all students who were admitted to the program regarding passports, visa, accommodation, bank account, insurance, travel itineraries, and so on. The second part of the takeoff program is called Check-in at FBE, abbreviation of Faculty of Bioscience Engineering. So you check in, what does that mean? We receive students in small groups, and we offer them group presentations with Q&A sessions where we go in depth about all kinds of administrative requirements, like residence permits, insurances, taxes, all kinds of EU-Ghent requirements that you might have to meet. And then the third part of this program is called Onboarding at FBE. That's in the second week of September. And the third week, these are interactive information sessions on very diverse topics, like how's the daily life like in Ghent in Belgium? What about student well-being? We invite like a psychologist, and we show you where you can go if you have any well-being related problem. How's traffic in Belgium? What do you have to look out for? Some things about mobility in the city, waste recycling. What's the faculty? What are the services it has to offer? What are Ghent services like sports accommodation and bike rental and so on and so on. And it also consists of some fun activities like a city game with the whole group. So then you also meet people from other programs and nationalities. A quiz, a sing-along, your first words in Dutch, which you don't need to know, by the way, in any way to follow the IMRD program. It's just funny and helpful that you might be able to say some words to someone you meet in the street. Okay, let's move on then to the last part of this webinar, the career paths of the IMRD alumni with Professor Speelman again.
Okay, so as Andrea was already mentioning, IMRD is in a way a quite broad program, and that also reflects in the employment opportunities or the career opportunities. So what we see from our graduates is that quite a substantial share of them ends up in academic, doing a PhD or having a further career at universities. Another part ends up in rural development organizations. This can be organizations like FAO or IFAD, who focus on rural development in the global south, but also rural development organizations in Europe. Then another part of our alumni typically ends up in government organizations focusing on rural development, either in their home country or in other countries. And then also a part of our alumni ends up in the private sector, and then maybe mainly in jobs as consultant. So either consultants towards governments or consultants towards these development organizations. So this is in broad terms the type of careers you can envision to have if you study the IMRD program.
Okay, so before we proceed to the Q&A, I would like to invite IMRD graduate Divine Funjem from Cameroon, who will highlight the relevance of the IMRD program for his own career so far. Welcome, Divine.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm visible.
Yes.
Good. So my name is Divine Funjem. I work for socio-economic. Socio-economic is a member of the consultative group of international agricultural research, which actually carry out research on food security, dedicated to reducing poverty, enhancing food and nutrition security, and improving natural resources. So I'm based in the Yaoundé office in Cameroon, and I am a graduate from the 2000 to 2009 batch. So I actually graduated in 2009. You cannot believe that it's already 15 years that I left IMRD, and I can still see some of my notes passing through my brain, or me using them actually on the field. So maybe it will be interesting that you know what I do in socio-economic. Socio-economic is a non-profit science for development research institution, and our principal goal is trying to harness the power of trees and agroforestry landscapes to address current challenges related to deforestation, biodiversity loss, sustainable livelihoods, climate change, food insecurity, and also inequalities. We basically use multidisciplinary approaches to address all these livelihoods and ecosystem challenges. We actually, as I said, we actually carry out research using innovative approaches. And if you want to come to me to know specifically what I do in socio-economic, I was recruited as a marketing specialist. Actually, at the time when I was recruited, the whole idea of value chains was very fashionable. So I'm involved in leading marketing research activities in West and Central Africa, across a number of countries in West and Central Africa. So I work on nature-based enterprises, non-timber forest products, but also trying to look at consumer demands related and international trade related to these products. I also provide guidance in this region on monitoring and evaluation, and also impact assessment of all these projects related to agroforestry, forestry, and collective action, also post-harvesting and policies on agroforestry. So I also provide guidance on monitoring and evaluation I'm also involved in some strategic thinking related to developing markets and products for all of these products in Western Central Africa. And now my work is gradually shifting towards landscape management and governance, and also building stakeholder platforms in order to address conflicts related to the use of natural resources in these landscapes. I also do a lot of networking and partnership, because as a researcher, you have to develop your own projects and be paid. So I also do a lot of networking and partnership to sell what we are doing related to governance and integrated landscape management. As Ten said, as a research institution, we also do a lot of research, and as such, we supervise a lot of graduate students, both MSc and PhD, on all works related to natural resource economics, and also management and policy aspects. So this is basically what I do, and in World Agroforestry in C4 ICRAF. So you may want to know how did the IMRD program help me? I must say that the multidisciplinary nature of the MSc is quite enriching, because as a researcher, you have to be able to know what your colleagues are doing in order to develop the type of projects that are holistic. So I learned a lot as a researcher. The theories that were given to me in the courses were quite useful, and also all aspects related to multiculturalism, the fact that you have to know how to deal with other people coming from different cultures, working in international organization. I learned that, and it's quite enriching, because this is what is helping me to cope and deal with other actors on the field. You may also want to know whether if I did not work for the C4 ICRAF, what else would I be doing? I mean, before I was recruited in C4 ICRAF, I was lucky to get another job in another CG center. That was the International Potato Center in Mozambique. But I turned that down because I preferred working in my own home country. But I would have loved to do other things like consultancies. Quite a good number of my colleagues and friends are into consultancies, mostly on impact evaluation, but also trying to work closely with farmers, developing business plans or developing their strategies. So, I mean, this is what other things that maybe after my career in C4 ICRAF, I would like to get involved into. So, I mean, this is in a nutshell the type of things I've been doing, and I must say that the whole issue of networking, social capital, partnership is quite very important. I can remember the seminars that were given in IMRD that helped me a lot to expose expose us to a lot of things, practical things on the field. So I'm advising any potential IMRD students to take advantage of all the programs. You may not use everything, but at least you know that they exist, and it's easy for you to adapt and interact with your colleagues when you know that these things are also useful in harnessing rural development strategies. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Divine, for sharing. I hope you will continue to experience the benefits of your IMRD degree for a long time to come in your career. So thank you. Let us now then move on to the Q&A. Feel free to still add additional questions in the Q&A box. And in the meantime, please take a look at our contact details on this slide and the social media URLs. We warmly invite you to follow the International Training Center on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.